All right, I started the stream, and streaming is started, and we started the stream, and there it is, go live. All right, so things are happening on Facebook and YouTube. This is Charlie from Red Blue Talk. And the reason I'm coming at you twice in one day is this is a fast-changing story all about property taxes and Governor Cuomo, who issued an executive order, and I'm just trying to make sense out of the whole thing. And there's been a lot of announcements during the day and a lot of chatter on social media, so I'm trying to sort through it and make sense out of it for myself and hopefully for others. So let me just kind of get a couple of settings straight here. Okay, that looks good. Things are bumping along. Please put some comments in the box, in the Facebook comments. I guess I really would like to hear from you, and try to explain what's going on to the best that I'm able to understand it. Which I need to say right at the front, I am not a lawyer. I am not an accountant. I have some financial background, a little, but I'm no expert on taxes, and this is not tax advice. This is not legal advice. It's not really even life advice, but it's an attempt to make, I am a taxpayer, and it's an attempt to make sense out of a very confusing situation. So with that disclaimer out of the way, the reason we're having this conversation is because the Congress passed and the President signed a law this week changing the U.S. tax code for the first time in many, many years. It's going to affect people who live in New York adversely because this is a high-taxed state like California, like New York, like a few other places. And if you happen to live in one of these super high-taxed, ultra-high-taxed counties like Westchester County, where I happen to live, or Rockland County, or Bergen County, New Jersey, I understand, is also one of these places. It's going to affect you because there is now a $10,000 per year cap on property taxes. So in other words, you used to be able to, if your property taxes cost $12,000 a year, you could deduct the entire $12,000 from your taxable income, which would reduce your adjusted gross income, and that would be a lower base on which your federal income tax was determined. That's gone now. There's a $10,000 cap. And one thing I'm unclear about is whether that $10,000 cap includes state and local property taxes, state income taxes, as well as local property taxes, or if it's only state and local property taxes. I'm not 100% clear about that, but maybe somebody watching knows the answer. Hello, Lester Kravitz. Hello, Lisa Cohn. Thank you for joining. So here's a couple of things that I found out over the course of the day. Well, so like quick recap here. This guy is the governor of New York. If you live in New York, you know, Andrew Cuomo's a household name. You know who he is. If you don't live in New York, this is our governor. He issued an executive order, and the purpose of the executive order was to make it a little bit easier for the municipalities, which are these taxing authorities, to be able to allow taxpayers to prepay their 2018 real estate taxes on the very last few remaining days of 2017, to thereby avoid those tax dollars being subject to the limited deduction that's available in the 2018, in the tax laws that begin in 2018. So it was a way to, like, basically what he was trying to do is help New Yorkers game the tax rules a little bit by giving them this one last opportunity to have a unrestricted deduction, because for 2017 those new tax laws don't apply, so there's no restriction. In 2018 they do. So if you pay your 2018 taxes in 2017, you don't have the restriction of the $10,000 per year limitation on deductibility of property taxes. So he's trying to give us one last opportunity to take advantage of that, and the way to do that is to get the local municipalities to issue a warrant. A warrant is basically like a local resolution that says we are about to raise taxes. We are about to levy taxes. It's a legal document that every municipality issues every single year before they go about the process of receiving taxes. So The receiver of taxes is the individual who is authorized to take your check and put it in the bank account of the municipality. And in order for them to do that, they have to have a warrant. They have to have a warrant. So with no warrant, they can't do that. And if there's no warrant in place on the 2018 taxes, then they won't be able to receive those taxes until next year. That's not good if you live in New York. You want to prepay them. At least that's the theory. So that's another little problem with this whole thing, which is there's a couple of different questions. Can you prepay your local property taxes? And Governor Cuomo is trying to take away the obstacles to that part of the equation. Can you? Well, he's trying to take away the restriction on the amount of time that the municipalities normally have to wait in order to issue a warrant. So he's saying go ahead and do that right away. But then the other question is, should you? And no one wants to take responsibility for the answer to that question. Should you? So I see a lot of chatter online, and some of the folks who are commenting, just have a tremendous amount of depth on this subject area. Others are just like me. There seems to be some question about whether it is absolutely advisable in every case to prepay taxes. So first of all, let me say that who wants to prepay taxes? That's like, it's like taking medicine when you're not sick. Nobody wants to do that. But for some people, there will be an advantage, and maybe not for others. So I've heard a few people online say that if you are subject to the AMT, or the alternative minimum tax, then none of this applies. So that's a alternative minimum tax is basically a totally alternative tax calculation that I think was originally intended to make sure that very wealthy people didn't deduct their way out of paying taxes completely. However, depending upon your income and how you make your income, you could be subject to alternative minimum tax, in which case these deduction issues don't apply to you. Very unique, and everyone says it. I guess I have to say it too. You got to consult a tax advisor to find out if that applies to you. But if that does not apply to you, and for many people it does not, then there could be an advantage to paying those taxes in 17 while they're still deductible. So what's going on now is if anybody wants to put a couple of comments in here, I know we have a couple people watching, that'd be helpful. I could really use a little bit of guidance from the folks who are out there. So I found some resources. Let me look at, see if I can pull this up here. Okay. So check this out. So online, first of all, this right here, let me make sure that you guys can see it. Yep, good. This right here is the actual resolution that was passed by the governor. And if you scroll way down to the bottom, you can see here they specifically call out Westchester County because there's a couple of specific rules. Rule 283.3011 of the Westchester County Tax Law permits town supervisors to issue warrants for the collection of taxes. He's basically revoking the time limitation, the time limitation for the collection of taxes. In lieu thereof, such legislative bodies are hereby authorized to issue warrants for the collection of taxes and to deliver them to the collecting officers immediately upon the adoption of the budget or upon the issuance of this order, whichever is later, but no later than 11:59 p.m. December 28th. So let me tell you what I think this means. So there's a couple of things. Let me go back to the core questions. Can you prepay your taxes, and should you prepay your taxes? The should question, fair, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, you got to ask your accountant. But let's assume that you should, if you can. It's the can part that's tricky. So what clearly is happening here is this executive order is meant to take away obstacles to the municipalities being able to receive your taxes, because there are corner cases where a municipality or county has got a fiscal year which is the same as the calendar year, and they may have already, sometime in December or whenever, they passed the budget and they issued warrant to levy taxes, in which case you can walk in and prepay your taxes because a warrant has been issued. But if they haven't issued the warrant, because they don't collect the taxes on a normal basis until later in the year, like March or April, then in that case, they would have passed the budget, not issued a warrant. They're not going to collect the taxes until some later month, maybe March or April of 2018. In that case, you could not pay your taxes. So this executive order is meant to take away that obstacle and allow the municipality to issue a warrant and receive your taxes, and then further on in the warrant, it also gives the ability to accept partial payments. Down here it says here, contingent upon adoption of a resolution by the governing body of the municipal corporation allowing partial payments. Each collecting officer is authorized and directed to accept partial payment of taxes in receipt of the warrant from the receipt of the warrant for the collection of taxes until close of business on December 29, 2017. So they're trying to make it easy for people to make partial payments in 2017 for taxes that are due in 2018. And they're trying to take away an obstacle for those municipalities that have already passed the budget but have not yet issued a warrant. So that's, I guess, the broad idea of the governor's executive order. Now, over the course of the day, I looked at a whole bunch of websites for local municipalities, and I discovered a few things. First of all, second half school taxes. So school taxes in where I live are typically paid in 2 installments, one in January and the other in September. And the fiscal year of the school districts runs July 1st to June 30th of the next year. So the budgets for the school districts are passed actually by a public vote where I live. If you live in a small city or a town or a village, there's a public vote on the school budget. That happens in May. The warrants are issued in May. So in May of 2017, warrants were issued for the entire fiscal year for the school district. The second half of that payment, because it's broken into 2 in most places, the second half is due in January. And so you could walk in today or Tuesday, and after Christmas, you could walk in and you could pay, hello Veronica Stern, you could walk in and you could pay your taxes. And there would be no problem. It doesn't require an executive order for that to be possible because the warrant was already issued. Okay, so that's one little factoid. The other thing I found out is that there are some municipalities that have passed budgets but have not issued warrants, or are going to issue a warrant, or are taking advantage of the governor's executive order. So let's look at the list here. I hope you can see this. I think you can. So this is Scarsdale. This is Scarsdale's website, and I've also been looking online. You guys able to see this? Yeah, there you go. Okay, so this is Scarsdale's website, and there's a lot of notes up and down Facebook today that various municipalities like Harrison, Scarsdale, Eastchester, New Rochelle have either sent out robocalls or emails, and some of them have posted things on their website about prepayment of taxes. That's because those municipalities are the receivers of taxes. So you got to be careful whether they're talking about school taxes or town taxes or village taxes or multiple kinds of taxes. So let's look at this one. This is Scarsdale, and what they're saying in the village of Scarsdale is, pursuant to Governor Cuomo's December 22 executive order temporarily suspending certain sections of New York state law, the village is now able to provide for the prepayment of 2018 property taxes prior to the end of the 2017 calendar year. So I guess they're able to say that, there it is in black and white, because Scarsdale has passed a budget, and they're either immediately issuing a warrant or they already issued a warrant, so you can walk in, you can pay your property taxes. Let's look at a different one. So let's look at Eastchester. So I think this should be visible to you now. In Eastchester, where are you? I'm a little bit confused. I think you're seeing this before me. In Eastchester, they've posted a notice, but it only relates to their second half school tax. And this may have been posted a couple of days ago because, as I said, it doesn't require a governor's executive order to receive taxes for which a warrant has already been issued. So this is Eastchester informing their residents that the second half school tax can be accepted right away. So there is certainly an option to prepay second half school tax in Eastchester. Wait a second, I got one more to show you. And then this is New Rochelle. So in New Rochelle, proposed changes in federal tax policy may reduce the deduction for local property taxes in 2018. Property owners should consult their accountant or financial advisor, of course. And it says the city will continue to accept prepayment of second half school taxes and the annual city tax, which is due January 31st, 2018, suggesting to me that in the city of New Rochelle, their fiscal year is aligned to the calendar year. So there you have it. It really, there were two questions I started out with. Can I and should I? Can you depends on where you live. Should you depends on your particular unique taxation situation. I'm not an accountant or lawyer, but you gotta talk to somebody who is and follow their advice. But clearly something is going on because it's a Saturday and these communities are updating their websites. Some of them are sending out robocalls. It's like a whole heavy thing. Oscar Davis, thanks for joining. So I also noticed that Oscar kind of reminds me, the city of Mount Vernon, I do not believe has passed a budget because I got what do you call it, an email newsletter from Mount Vernon at like 6 o'clock tonight, and it alluded to provisions of the budget that had not yet been passed. So in Mount Vernon, they'll have to pass a budget, and then after they pass the budget, they'll be able to leverage the provision of the executive order, issue a warrant, and then receive taxes. But again, whether that's actually going to happen, you gotta pick up the phone and call the receiver of taxes wherever you live and find out what the immediate situation is where you live. Check the website. If you don't see anything, call your city hall receiver of taxes on Tuesday after Christmas and find out what's the deal in your particular spot, because it's a little different everywhere you go. And you know, I don't know what else to say except that this is a even if this works, even if it is advantageous for you and it's possible to do where you live, it's a one-off, one-time, last-ditch effort at taking advantage of having no limit on the deductibility of state and local property taxes. It won't work for taxes that are due in 2019. It won't work all the way out to 2026. So it's just a gimmick, kind of a game to take advantage of the laws as they exist for 5 more days, 5 more business days. And if it applies to you, then I guess take advantage of it. But even if it applies to you, you have to have the money to prepay the taxes. And who the hell wants to do that? You know, that's a question you got to ask. But I suppose, you know, it's dollars and cents. And if you're like me and your tax bill is $20,000 a year and the new limitation on deductions is only $10,000 a year and your marginal federal tax rate is 28%, then you have to find another $2,800 out of nowhere to pay your taxes in 2018. So if you can save $2,800, most people would want to do that. But you got to have the money up front in order to make that possible, and not everybody does. You got to have the money up front to prepay the bill, and not everybody has it. Not everybody wants to do that. So all around, it's a terrible, screwed up situation. The federal tax law that passed this week is going to punish people that live in highly taxed, high real estate tax areas like New York, like Westchester County, like Rockland County, like Bergen County, New Jersey, like Orange County, California, like Los Angeles County, California, like San Francisco, places with high real estate costs and high taxation, it's going to be rough and it's going to be costly. You know, if you think about it, in my own situation, I just gave an example where maybe I could save $2,800 if this actually applies to me, and if, you know, if I can prepay my taxes and have the ability to do that, and the town will receive them. If all those hurdles are there, think about that $2,800, what it's worth in my pocket over a period of 10 or 20 years versus what it's worth if I give it away. If I give it away, I don't have it. If I have $2,800, I can invest that $2,800, and in 10 or 15 years, it could pay for a year of college potentially. So it's a very serious matter, and I know it's one that people are talking about all over Westchester County because I can see it on Facebook and I can see when I talk to my friends. Now, I did find one interesting little footnote on this whole thing. One footnote on this whole thing is Westchester County taxes. That's a real open question. I don't know yet. I'm going to look it up. I mean, it might be changing by the minute. Let me look up online while I'm talking to you. Let's go to westchestergov.com. And let's see if there's any special announcements here. Holiday message from County Executive Astorino. Alerts. I don't see anything. I don't see any special messages here about what's going on. I did notice that if you keep an eye on LowHUD, LowHUD has a pretty good article called Q&A, Can I Prepay My Property Taxes? You might want to take a look at that. I think maybe my audio's a little high. You might want to take a look at that one. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear this or not.
So most taxpayers will pay less. The bill roughly doubles the standard deduction to $12,000 for individuals and $24,000 for couples. But it eliminates personal exemptions and captures scraps popular deductions that shield income from tax.
Individuals living in high-tax states such as New York and California will see the biggest changes to their itemized deductions, where they will only be able to deduct state income and real estate taxes up to a combined total of $10,000.
The legislation imposes new limits on the mortgage interest deduction, which could weaken the incentive to buy a home in pricey housing markets such as California. But realtor Will Dorley doesn't think it will dampen demand in this San Francisco Bay Area suburb.
Hi, Kim Chandler.
For well over $1 million.
The housing market itself is still strong. The economy is still strong. The job market is still strong. Interest rates are still low. And demand outstrips supply by a large percentage.
Yeah. All right. Well, that guy's a real estate broker. He's saying everything is great. The demand is high. The prices are high. Everything's awesome. It's not awesome if your taxes are going up by a substantial multi-$1,000 amount in a single year, because most people don't have the ability to just reach into some magic treasure chest and pay those extra dollars. So everything isn't great. But that other guy, that he actually is a tax attorney, and you know, he kind of put his finger on what it is. Now, he made it sound like the $10,000 cap applies to both the deductibility of state income taxes and property taxes combined. And you know, if that's correct, this thing is going to be rough. And I really wonder if it, at some point, for certain kinds of houses, maybe not the biggest of mansions, but maybe, you know, the ordinary houses that most people I know live in, I wonder if it could potentially have some impact on property values and maybe even on assessed valuations. So, you know, I guess we'll, as President Trump would say, I guess we'll have to see what happens. It's not good. So listen, if there's any thoughts or comments, I'm going to just take a quick look at the YouTube comments and see if anybody's saying anything over there. Let me just check. I don't think so. No, nothing going on in the chat there. Nothing going on in the chat unless I can't see it. If you guys are posting comments, I'd love to see them and try to respond to your comments, or you can always send me a comment, put a comment in the box on the playback. But this is what I've been able to find out today. I tried to share a few resources with you. If you know anything about what's going on in your particular community, with respect to the acceptance of real estate taxes for 2018 into the few remaining days of 2017. Let us know. If anybody has more detail about whether or not this is worth doing, that would be helpful as well. All right, everybody. Red Blue Talk is my YouTube channel. I talk about ways that government and politics impact people's lives, and property taxes is certainly one of them. It's a political story. I don't know if I finished up explaining this, but with Westchester County, that is a wait-and-see situation. So Westchester County taxes are actually paid in April, but they apply to a fiscal year that runs January to December. So the county passed a budget. It was vetoed by the county executive. The veto was overridden on Thursday, so there's a budget, but a warrant has not been issued. So as of this moment, I don't think you can prepay the Westchester County property taxes. And in order for a warrant to be issued, it requires that the outgoing county executive basically issue a warrant, and that I think the Board of Legislators has to vote on it. So if anybody has more detail on whether the county taxes are going to be eligible for prepay, you know, put a comment in there, and this is a developing story we would all like to know more about. All right, everybody. Kim, thank you for the comments. Thanks for getting the word out. So important. Oscar Davis, how's it going to hurt those with multiple properties? Great question. So this gentleman is saying, you know, what if I own a home and I maybe have a second home that I rent out to other people? I can say this. $10,000 is the most you can deduct beginning in 2018. So whether that changes the rules on how you treat property taxes for investment properties, I simply do not know. But it's a great question, and it's one of 1,000 questions that stems from this basic fundamental change in the tax law, which, you know, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if there was something to offset it, but I'm not clear that there is. Some people say that a larger personal exemption is going to offset it. I don't know. Nobody knows, but it's certainly a very abrupt change that adversely affects people that live in the high property tax states. So anyway, Red Blue Talk is my channel. I would love it if you're watching on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, and I'm trying to like get over the 100 subscriber hurdle. I'm pretty close. It would mean a lot to me if you go to the YouTube channel, redbluetalk.com. Sorry, youtube.com/redbluetalk. Hit the subscribe button. That way you'll get notices when I either stream or upload a new video. I tend to upload new videos on Sundays. I don't know if I'm going to do one tomorrow because I did 2 live streams today and I'm kind of exhausted. Have a Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a happy holiday, happy Hanukkah, which is over, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate at this time of year. I certainly appreciate the support. Thank you for tuning in, and good night.